at these wonderful firefighters. The federal guys, the guys that are with the U.S. Forestry Service and the state people, they know their job. They came in, they bring them dozers in, they wipe out a big area, and they sit back and let it burn to where it's supposed to. Locally, last night, we had a fire on Black Rock Mountain, scares you, at the campsite. 5 to 6 acres of land burning, discovered by a deputy sheriff. Within 15 minutes, they had a crew up there. Within 45 minutes, they had it put out. So it's one of those things, if you see something, say something. Let us know, let the dispatchers call 911, let them know where it is, and they're going to get a crew in there. We got people coming. Next week, you'll see between 100 and 1,000 people down at City Hall in Clayton. Their firefighters brought in from around, and they're going to be stationed here, and that's what they're using the supplies for. Wow. Okay, having said all that, what we want to talk about today is oompa. Can you say oompa?
Oompa.
Oompa. Fun, isn't it? Well, oompa is a short, if you will. Let me back up one second. Let me explain something to you. First of all, I'm not a teacher. I'm a learner. And this is a learning experience for me. Anytime that I try to take on one of these subjects and look at it to present it, I try to do that from a teacher's point of view. And I was taught that a long, long time ago by a very wise person that said, if you want to learn it, learn to teach it. So I've tried to do that. And I will tell you that opening up this process, and we're talking about the 5 basic principles of unity. And that's where oompa came from. And oompa was actually started in Hawaii, if I'm not mistaken. But it is a short, if you will, acronym for it. But let me run down oompa real quick for you so you'll understand. The first O means omnipresence, one present, one power. The next O is the original virtue, oneness. The M is mindfulness, co-creation in mind. The P is for prayer and meditation. And the A is for action. And that's the 5 principles. And oompa is hopefully a way that you can start and learn. Because what happens so often, and it happened to me, it happened to Mimi, happened to Mimi a lot worse so, or you can say that, she reacted to it differently. But it's just like the Apostle Creed. We say these things, and then one day we happen to look at them and say, well, what does that mean? What am I saying? I mean, I'm taught from the very beginning, early in church, you have to go through the process, and then you get a rubber stamp on your head that says you're a good Methodist, or you're a good Baptist, or whatever the case may be, and go and sin no more. But we really stop and think about what we believe. What we are saying, do we really believe it? In this part, I want to talk about 2 things, if you will, about the 5 principles. One is self-awareness. Do we believe what we're saying? And the second part is action. Because none of this is worth anything unless we do it. Okay? So all of these 5 simple rules are 5 simple statements that is based on unity's acceptance, if you will. This is what we say when we become a true unity member. And I came to unity late in life. I knew things about it, and I felt different about religion early on, but I didn't do anything about it. I was too busy living. And then when I got there, and I start looking at this, then I think to myself, doggone, I wish I'd done this a lot sooner. I feel like, but the other side of that is, God puts you where you're supposed to be when it's time to do so. But the other side also is that with these things, with these principles, can we make them something that we can use on a daily basis, as opposed to just in a little book, beautiful book. If you haven't ever read this, Temple Hayes, I love. Temple Hayes is a minister from St. Petersburg, Florida. She has a church down there. She has a radio program. She wrote this little How to Speak Unity book, and she is just a marvelous person. She's gay, and she's married to a beautiful, beautiful lady. And I just love her radio. She is able to go out and find people to bring in and put on this radio program that matter. So it's really, really interesting to hear her talk. Having said all of that, let's talk about the 5 principles. And again, I am not a teacher. I'm a learner, so I'm learning with you. And I don't like to read these things. It's much better if I can sort of give it to you. But in this case, I'm going to have to read to you some of the things. Now, the first 2 things I'm going to talk about is, I'll read to you what the Unity, if you went to unity.org and brought up the 5 principles, this is what they said. And right after that, I'm going to tell you what Temple Hayes says. And then we'll talk about each one of them. First principle, principle number 1. God is the source and creator of all. There is no other enduring power. God is good and present everywhere. Good principle, right? Temple Hayes says, there's only one power and one presence active in this universe and all life. God, the good, omnipresent. Now, understand there are probably 25 or 26 different translations of that principle. All of them translated differently. Omnipresence. What does omnipresence mean to us? Well, God is everywhere, present, and always available. And I have to sort of stop. I'm sorry, I usually use a mic. I didn't think about using this one, but I move around. So if I move away from the mic, I'm sorry. But the thing is that when you get to a principle, when you say that God is everywhere and always available, that's something you have to get used to. Because that means that I might have God somewhere he might not be supposed to be, or she might not be supposed to be. And if I am a human and do things, then there's a possibility that I have taken God into places that maybe God didn't supposed to be. But in truth, in reality, and honesty with myself, that's the part I have to learn to deal with. God is with me. I am God, as Jesus said it, I am in the Father and the Father is in me. Okay, God seems to limit how incredibly, God seems to limit how incredibly God truly is. God is in every thought, every word, everything physical and non-physical, seen and unseen. God is all that has ever been and will ever be. God is all that has ever been and will ever be. Unity's scope of principle is God is present in all things. Now that one I have to take a little bit further because that opens up the other part of understanding God's presence. God is in everything. He's in the animals, He's in the trees, He's in the seasons, He's in the water, He's in life, He's in everything. And it's not a he. And that's the other part. God is, I am. All right, it goes on to say that the all is one power, one presence, one God expressing through each of us. And we'll talk about that a bit more. Now, I have to throw in a little scripture, and I'm sorry I don't know more scripture. I'll be learning it and sharing more scripture with you, but this is from John 10:38. Even though you do not believe me, believe the works, that you may know and understand that the Father is in me and I am in the Father. The Father is in me and I am in the Father. And to think about God being in you, in me, in every one of us, that's fun. It's a whole different understanding of life. Now, and the fact that God is good. Now, there's the other part of it is that there's a statement that says, God, there is nothing or no one that is against you. If God be with me, there's then no one against me. And hopefully we'll sort of listen to that. And we are in turmoil. We are in a lot of upset. And there is a lot of dissension, and there's a lot of misunderstanding, and there's a lot of
angst.
Yes, thank you. Anger, fear. There's a lot of hope in the areas, absolutely. And but you put all these together, and you got to figure, what do we do as humans? We try to figure it out ourselves. I got the answer. Okay? Watch this. And what do? Fall flat on our face. When we need to look at it and say, I'm in this with God. God's in this with me. All right, second principle. We are spiritual beings created in God's image. The Spirit of God lives within each person. Therefore, all people are inherently good. Hold that thought. It says, our essence is of God. Therefore, we are inherently good. This God expresses was fully expressed in Jesus the Christ and is equally expressed in us. This one is hard. If you're new to unity, if you're new to this understanding, and you get into it, then you have this thing that says that we're all good. Period, end of story. Everybody is good. Yet, when you look at people that murder, rapists, mass killers, arsonists, then how do you say that person is inherently good? And again, that's from a human point. That's from my judgment point. And I tend to judge people differently. If we understand this principle, if we understand one of the number 2 basic principle, we are all inherently good. Now, I've had long conversations with Mimi. And Mimi looks beyond that to a point that she can see that, yes, this is bad. Yes, this shouldn't happen. But it doesn't mean that that person, the soul, when you get down to it, that soul isn't inherently good. That takes some work, thank you. Again, let me pull up what they say in a couple of instances from the Bible. It says, again, the Father and I are one. Very, very truly I tell you that one who believes in me will also do the works that I do. In fact, will do greater works. Again, Jesus. That was John 14:12. And then the next one is, as you go, preach this message, the kingdom of heaven is near. And where do we think heaven is? Right here. And where is that inherent good? Right there. But it's hard as humans to get to that point. We want to judge. We want to look at it and say that's wrong, that's bad, and you're dare I say it, go to hell. You're going to hell. No. So, there again, the question that I have to ask in this situation is, can we get to the point that we can look at it and say that, yes, every person is inherently good? That's the second principle. Can we do that? Let's talk about the third one. We create our own life experiences through our way of thinking. And Temple Hayes says, we are co-creators with God, creating reality through thoughts held in our mind. Wow. That could be dangerous, couldn't it? I mean, if we don't think right, then what are we doing? And what is right? So, I mean, there again, the principle is a very short one, little sentence there. But do we really understand what it's telling us to do? Now, we're supposed to be unitics, right? So we're learning the way of unity. Let's talk a little bit about co-creation. God is all of me, and yet I am not all of God. God is all of me, but I'm not all of God. If God is our creator and we are made in the image and likeness of God, then we have all of the inherent qualities of God. God is the ultimate creator, and we are co-creating each and every moment of our lives. In unity, we are using prayer as intention, imagery as in visualization, and meditation as directions in co-creating life of our dreams. And then it goes on to say that we co-create as we continue to grow in God's knowing God is always greater than we are. In unity, we affirm boldly that there is a power for good and we can use it. There is a power for good that we can use. Now, there's the challenge. Are we looking for that? Or are we judging? Are we spending our time judging other people? Let's talk a little bit about mind, because this is the other word that's brought out in here. We're co-creators with God, creating reality through thoughts held in our mind. What does that mean? If something is happening to some of us on some level, it is happening to all of us. Do we feel that? We do. But everything that's happening, the election happened to all of us. I'm sorry, it did. It would be nice to say that there were some people exempt and they didn't have to fool with it. But it really, regardless of what avenue you happen to take, it is going to affect us. The fires, they have affected us. Life has affected us. And if you think that you're going to get out of this without being affected, you're wrong. But it's the same thing, though. What do we say? We're using our mind to create this. Of course, it just said that a little while ago. When you see this, when you're out there and you have an opportunity to feed the birds, what are you doing? You're taking your mind and projecting it into the universe. My wife Mimi loves it. I mean, she is truly a projector. She will spend her meditation time looking at it and saying, I want peace on earth. And if I can make a difference, I will say, she will keep on preaching that. She's going to make a difference. God, the mind, is forever evolving through all things as we begin to allow our paradigms to emerge in our lives. We create what we want to do. It goes back to the old term, I can't remember the guy's name right now. Anyway, the very first thing I ever got into in selling it was you are what you think about all day long. And if you stop and think about that one, that's scary. Especially to a young guy. You are what you think about all day long. But what I feel like God is saying to me is, you have the ability to create your own life the way you want it to be. But it starts with your thinking. And if you really, really understand this, and you really start to practice this, it's a whole different world. Because you have that power. That is God in you. You are given that power to change your thinking. And when you start changing your thinking, you change your attitudes. You start changing your attitudes, you change your life. You start changing your life, you change other people's lives. To me, it's the greatest of them. Just to understand that you're given that power yourself. Nobody, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to go to college. You don't have to go to work. You have to go inside. You have to go to meditate. You have to go to be quiet. And you have to figure out what it is that I want. And it's not selfishly. And it's not ego talking. It's coming from here. What do we want? And it gets past the Cadillacs and the big pretty house. And it gets down to peace, happiness, love. That's what you want. All right, number 4. We're getting there. There is power in affirmative prayer, which we believe increases our awareness of God. Temple Hayes says, through affirmative prayer and meditation, we connect with God and bring out the good in life. Number 3 sort of flows into number 4, doesn't it? But it talks here, let's say, from the Bible it says, so I'll tell you, whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it. And this is affirmative prayer, and I think if you really understand how affirmative prayer works, you're not begging God. God's not a big ATM in the sky. Put in a code, ask a few things, and sit back and wait for the money to fall, or whatever it is that you're asking for. But if you really understand affirmative prayer, that praying is from the point of understanding that God already understands you, me, us. God knows what you need, and He knows what you want. And there's nothing wrong with some desires in there. But the thing is, we don't beg. You do it from an affirmative point, and that is to state, if I'm ill, I don't say, God, heal me. I say, God, thank you for this wonderful, healthy life I'm living. And that's different. That takes some training. That takes some understanding. That also takes some time for us to go into meditation and be quiet. Be still and know that I am God. Let's talk a little bit about meaning of prayer. Often the undertone of prayer is pleading, bargaining, and making amends with God. You know, if you'll just do this one more time, I promise I won't ever do that again. Have we ever done that? Really? I mean, have you ever done that? But that's not what it is. And actually, you know, I had somebody say something to me, he said, well, that's what little children pray. No, it isn't. Listen to little children sometime. You ever done that? I was absolutely amazed. I did this in the Methodist church. But that was one of the first places that I ever saw it, was listening to children. Because they did not go into this begging and pleading. They were asking direct for. They were giving thanks for the things that they had and the things that they needed. And it was a different prayer. So my challenge is go, find a child and listen to them pray. It's a different type of prayer. In other words, we state in prayer that which we desire to see. Our prayers, when held by others, have heartfelt responses because they are positive, inspirational, and affirm as if we desire it to be so. Prayers do not change God. Prayers change us. And if you can get there, that's the understanding. This is the affirmative prayer, and that believing that we are talking to ourselves. God is in us. And it's a different approach. All right, let's go to number 5. The fifth one, see, these are short little principles, nothing hard. You don't even have to have a written test afterwards. Knowledge of the spiritual principles is not enough. We must live them. And Temple Hayes goes on to say, through thoughts, words, and actions, we live in the truth that we know. The truth that we know. And again, from Matthew it says, truly I tell you, if you have the faith the size of a mustard seed. Anybody ever had one of those little, my grandmother had a little necklace, a little glass thing with a mustard seed in it. She wore that thing. She loved her Lord. If you have the faith the size of a mustard seed, you will say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move, and nothing will be impossible to you. Think about that for a minute. Can you wrap your mind around that kind of power? That's where you need to be. It's in here. If you've got that kind of faith, nothing else matters. But there is something that matters, is it's got to be put into action. And that action has got to come from all five of these positions. You can't just read these principles and sit back and say, wow, that's really nice. I've read all five of them. I bet you I could memorize them. And if asked to, I could pass a test. Which doesn't mean anything until they're internalized. Until they're in a position that when you see, when you hear, when you feel, you understand you're in the presence of God. And how you react to that other person, that other thing, comes from a different place. It comes from here, where God is. And it goes on to say that the other part of it is that you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. What is the truth? It's these five principles that we just talked about. It's to know and understand that you are a part of God, and that God is a part of you. And that if you can understand that and put it into daily practice and be a part of your everyday activity, the truth shall set you free. It's a wonderful lesson. It's a wonderful lesson. I think, again, I said I've given you two translations. One we had from the Unity, the other one was from Temple Hayes. This is the children's translation. Have you ever read it? Look at it. It says, God is all good and active in everything everywhere. Amen. I'm naturally good because God's divinity is in me and in everyone. I create my experiences by what I choose to think and what I feel and believe. Through affirmative prayer and meditation, I connect with God and bring out the good in my life. I do and give my best by living through the truth. I know I make a difference. I love theirs. I think it ought to be adopted as the main one.
As ours.
But that's the children's translation of it. So my challenge to you this week is to really look at these five principles. Like I said, I mean, it's the kind of thing where they're easy. They're in the front foot of this little book. They're on the website. But until you can take them from wherever they are, the translation that you like, and put it here, and then put it into action. My challenge to you. And so it is. Namaste.